1 2 1 2. What it is 2014, and yes, I am back a little late. Yes, it is March, and yo, I got a lot of groundwork to catch up on, but I have been keeping up with the fights. I just haven't had any time to make any videos, but here we are already. This is the first edition 2014 studio session predictions. This episode is going to be obviously Manny Pacquiao versus Timothy Bradley, the rematch. But before we get to that, I wanted to really quick talk about the Canelo Alvarez Alfredo Angulo fight that happened this past weekend. You know, a lot of people going into the fight were thinking that, you know, this was obviously an easy fight for Canelo, and it'll be a demonstration of you know, how, or at least bring out the assets that have made him, in a sense, a star with the Mexican crowd, and in a sense with boxing fans too. I mean, he does have a fan base, so it was a straight up until the TKO, which I didn't argue the TKO at all. I had Canelo winning maybe 9 out of the 10 rounds. I mean, the 8th round you can question, but I mean, maybe thinking back, I might have given that to Canelo too. I don't know. I mean, I just think that Alfredo Angulo was just really slow. I mean, he's a hard hitter. I mean, he was just taking too many shots. And one thing with Canelo, man, I notice, and I notice in a lot of his fights, man, is like around 5 and 6, 7, he just kind of like lets off and just kind of cruises, man. And I'm like, is he doing that strategically, or is he getting tired? So I don't know. But the interesting part was maybe more than the fight itself is what transpired during the post-fight conference, when Erislandy Lara basically threw down the gauntlet and challenged Canelo Alvarez, and Alvarez kind of, you know, brushed it off and was making it seem like, you know, who the fuck are you? But, you know, boxing fans know who Erislandy Lara is. But that should be the ideal fight for July for him, because there's really nobody else at 154 that's going to make for a big fight as far as competition is concerned. So we'll see what happens with that. On to the prediction for Manny Pacquiao versus Timothy Bradley, the rematch. Now, this was obviously a fight that we were bound to see happen because of the controversy from the first fight. I'm on the side that Manny Pacquiao won the fight. I've watched it about 3 times solidly, and people who make this notion that Jim Lampley is the reasoning behind millions of people's thought process as to why they thought Manny Pacquiao beat Timothy Bradley in the first fight. I mean, give me a break, yo. I mean, boxing fans are a lot more intelligent than that. I mean, I personally saw the fight the first time streaming, and I ain't gonna front, you know, with about like 40-50 people watching as I'm DJing, and mind you, there's no sound except for whatever music's being played. So everybody that's seeing this fight is basically watching what I'm watching, and there's no influence. You know, they're watching what they're watching. And mind you, the stream was fucking good. Any case, when the announcement was made, people, obviously you couldn't hear, but a lot of people were shocked when they saw Timothy Bradley run on the ropes, and it was just like, what the fuck? But me being a boxing fan and watching boxing and understanding the sport, I went back myself, and I just didn't find rounds that I fully gave to Bradley in the sense of like what they call the swing rounds. I think a lot of people were finding reasons to maybe award Bradley some of those rounds, but in hindsight, man, and looking back at the fight, I mean, Manny Pacquiao just landed the more solid punches, and he did outland Timothy Bradley, man. Like, I don't know what else people want. I guess that's where we're having this rematch now. The story, though, going into this rematch is a lot more different than what they were dealing with a couple of years ago, because Manny Pacquiao, obviously going into the Juan Manuel Marquez fight, got knocked the fuck out, came back a year later, fights Brandon Rios, and looks good, but not the ferocious Manny or the you know, this whole killer instinct thing, I think, is taking a little it's thrown around a little too much. I just don't see a ferocious Manny, and I don't see a Manny who's like the sharpshooter that he was, man. I mean, I don't think Pacquiao at welterweight was necessarily a power puncher, man. I mean, you know, Cotto got dropped, and you know, Oscar De La Hoya got stopped, and Ricky Hatton got dropped at 140. But like, if you look at his resume at 147, he hasn't really knocked a lot of people out, you know, except Miguel Cotto. But I think in this fight, it's gonna be telling, because Timothy Bradley, on the flip side, went life and death with Ruslan Provodnikov, and, you know, outboxed, in my opinion, Juan Manuel Marquez. So if you add both of those up, you know, between Pacquiao and Bradley, you could almost say that Bradley is on the up. You know what I'm saying? Like, has he peaked yet? I don't know. I mean, he probably has. And with Pacquiao, it's like he's not, to me, if you were to ask me today, right now, this is not the Pacquiao from like 2-3 years ago, or even 4 years ago, I should say. It's a fight that Manny Pacquiao, without a doubt, has to win, because of the fact that if he expects this Floyd Mayweather fight sometime maybe next year to present itself, because look, Floyd, he needs a big B-side opponent. I'll get to, not in this video, but I'll talk about the Maidana situation, him and Maidana fight in a few. But in going into this fight, man, Timothy Bradley is, you gotta think his confidence is sky high, and in his mind, he's probably got it embedded that, yeah, I beat this guy. But with Manny Pacquiao, he legitimately could say, I beat this guy already. So the worry is whether or not we're going to get a Manny Pacquiao that's not really up for this fight, or if we're going to get a Manny Pacquiao who wants to obliterate Timothy Bradley. I think that's what people are waiting for. Now, is Manny Pacquiao going to be that type of fighter against Timothy Bradley, who isn't a power puncher? He's a rough and rugged fighter. He's somewhat of a sharpshooter in a way, not necessarily, but he doesn't hit soft. I mean, I'll say that. I mean, he's not feather fisted. It's just with Manny Pacquiao, you have to think whether or not he has it in his head, whether if he can end up like how he did with Marquez. Even though it's Timothy Bradley, you never know. You don't know the psyche of a fighter after that happens. So, basing on both guys' recent history post their first fight, you know, conventional wisdom wants me to pick Timothy Bradley, based on what he's done since then, and being how bad Manny Pacquiao got knocked out by Marquez. But I just think that Manny Pacquiao still, at this point, can outpoint Timothy Bradley, because of the fact that with Juan Manuel Marquez, we forget too, like, look, he's almost 40 years old. You know what I'm saying? And it makes sense that Timothy Bradley would be able to outbox an older Juan Manuel Marquez. Manny Pacquiao is, first off, obviously a different set of circumstances. You got a southpaw who's very awkward, has better movement than Marquez, but at the same time, like I said, are we going to get a ferocious Manny or a too cautious Manny? If we get the too cautious Manny, I think Timothy Bradley may be able to win rounds on Manny, and it may get very interesting come the later rounds. If we get a very active Manny Pacquiao who takes some risk and tries to lure Timothy Bradley into a fight similar to Ruslan Provodnikov, I think that's Manny's advantage. And obviously the speed is there as well. So I'm gonna go with Manny Pacquiao by unanimous decision in a close fight, in another back and forth fight. But I think Manny Pacquiao is gonna prevail and is gonna show a little more maybe than the first fight, landing the more solid punches and being able to kind of make Timothy Bradley weary of, like, oh shit, we're dealing with Manny Pacquiao now. So but it's, again, it was really tough for me to come up with this prediction, and I like both guys, and we'll just have to see what transpires. But I'm gonna go with Manny Pacquiao by unanimous decision, like 115, 113. In order for any Mayweather mentions or any Mayweather talks to begin, he's got to get a decisive win over Timothy Bradley, and I think he's gonna do that. I think they've fought before and they know what they're dealing with, and the same thing goes with Bradley. So I just think the quicker Manny is gonna be the guy that lands the more effective shots, and just like in the first fight, I think he's gonna land more. So we shall see. April 12th, MGM Grand, Las Vegas, Nevada, for the WBO welterweight title. So as I always say, subscribe, hit the links, and I'll be back soon. Peace.